Hi, I'm Luke McIntosh, creator of becomeabassist.com, and in this lesson you're going to learn everything you need to know to get started reading bass tabs. We'll cover the very basics, but also some of the more obscure things that bass tabs sometimes ask you to do. If you're here right now, that probably means you need to make sense of the bass tabs you're seeing all over the internet. Good news though. First of all, you're not alone. I decided to make this video after I got a comment on another lesson asking about how to read tabs. Secondly, it's really simple to get started reading tabs. Much easier than the kind of standard music notation at least. So let's just jump right in. Now, if it's a bass tab you're seeing, chances are it's going to have 4 lines like this. Each of these lines represents one of the strings on your bass. In case you don't know, they're called the E, A, D, and G strings. Sometimes these will be written at the start of the lines like this, but not always. The E is your fattest string and sounds the lowest, yeah, that one right there. Your A string is the next one along. It's a bit thinner and sounds higher. Yep, your D string is right next to that one, this one right here. Again, a little bit thinner than the A string and also sounds higher. And finally, you've got your G right here on the end, which is your thinnest string and highest sounding. If the song you're playing is played on a 5 or a 6 string bass, then the tabs will show that like this. A 5 string will have an extra string right here and the 6 string right here. Also, if the song you're playing is in an alternate tuning, it'll sometimes be shown here, or it might just say so at the start of the tab. Now, one of the big mistakes that people make when they start trying to read tabs is they try to read it upside down. Yeah, they see a note on this top string here and they want to play it on the E string, when really you should be playing it on the G. Yeah? Tabs didn't really make sense to me when I first started using them because I was making this mistake. When I saw this, I mapped it to my bass like this. Yeah, like I was looking at someone else play, which is totally wrong, so I sounded like an idiot. The thing that helped me get past this though is to imagine these 4 lines kind of in front of my face, and then I'd pull it down onto my bass like this. Yeah, and as I pulled it down, it kind of flipped upside down like that. Maybe the same trick will work for you, maybe not. Either way, let's keep on moving forward. Now, the most common thing you'll see on tabs is different numbers, from 0 all the way up to 21 or 24, maybe even higher depending on the song. Now, these numbers represent the fret number on your bass. So for example, if we saw this, we've got a 3 on the A string. That means you'd play the 3rd fret on the A string, just like that, yeah? Now at the start, you might have to count up to the 3rd fret, 1, 2, 3. But the more you play, the more familiar you get with the fretboard, you'll just know where that 3rd fret is instinctively. Oh, and by the way, if you see a 0, you just play that as an open string, so no frets. So open E string, open A string, open D string, and open G. Simple enough, right? Now, if you came across a simple bass line like this, you'd be able to play it, no worries. You just go. Yeah? Let's go again. 3rd fret on the E string, 2nd fret on the A string, 3rd fret on the A string. Just like that. Now, in truth, if you know just these things, that's usually enough to get you going. And if this is enough for you, that's great. But a lot of the times you'll see all kinds of other symbols in the tabs you find. Some of the most common ones are hammer-ons and pull-offs. A hammer-on is where you pluck one note and then without plucking again, you hammer on the next note with your fretting hand like this. So plucking at the 12th fret on the G string, and then without plucking again, using the plucking hand to slam on the 14th fret. Now most of the time, it's notated like this. You pluck the 1st note, and then hammer on to the 2nd note. You'll also see the opposite of a hammer-on, which is a pull-off. Now a pull-off is where you pluck a note, and then again without the plucking hand, you pull that note off and reveal a new one underneath. Now it's usually notated like this: the original fret, then the lowercase p, and then the target note that you're actually hammering onto or pulling off from. So if we do that same thing on the same frets, we'll start with the 12th and the 14th fret. Hammer on, pull off. Hammer on, pull off. Just like that. You'll also sometimes see slides that are notated with backslashes and forward slashes. Now a forward slash means to slide up and a backslash means to slide down. So if you saw something like this, you'd need to start on the 12th fret and then slide up to the 14th fret. Yeah, again without the plucking hand. See how that works? Now that's your upward slide, but you can also slide down. That one uses a backslash rather than a forward slash. So start at the higher fret and slide down. Oh, pardon me. Just like that. Now, by the way, these slides don't always have to be between two distinct notes. You can slide up to a note from nothing, and you can slide down to nothing as well. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be from one distinct note to another. Another super common thing you'll find are these little X's like this. Now these represent something called ghost notes. Now these are notes that have rhythm but no super strong note. Yeah, and you get them by muting the strings in your fretting hand and then plucking, obviously, with your plucking hand. Yeah, you get this kind of sound. You're just kind of lightly grazing the string with the plucking hand. You're not pushing it down too hard, it'll get a note. You're not pushing it all the way down to the fretboard. And this means that you can hear the rhythm, but the pitch, not so much. Yeah. It also means you can get sounds like this. Yeah, you're getting that, here you're getting a rhythm, kind of like a thud, but no full note. That's exactly what these ghost notes are good for, and this is how they're represented in tab form. The next symbol is a little less common in bass tabs, and that's this symbol right up here. It's like a little upwards facing arrow. Now when you come across this symbol, you need to bend your string up. Yeah, usually you'll get the starting fret and then the symbol and then the number of the symbol you're supposed to bend up to, usually no more than 2 frets. For example, if we see this, we've got to start on the 14th fret and then bend up so it sounds like the 15th fret. That's our 15th fret, so we need to bend so it has that same sound. Do you see how that works? You end up with this kind of sound. Yeah? Like I said though, this isn't super common in bass tabs. It's super common in guitar tabs, not so much in bass tabs. Every once in a while, you might see a fret number with kind of square brackets around it, or you might see a number with an H either above or below the tab lines. Now this means you need to play that fret's harmonic, like this. Yeah, again, this is one of the less common ones. But if you're trying to play some Jaco Pastorius or something, you'll probably come across this. Now, if you need to know how to play harmonics, check out the series on my site, all about them. They'll be super, super helpful for you. Next, let's talk about how slap is notated in tabs. Now, unlike all the symbols we've talked about so far, these notations aren't in the 4 lines, rather they'll be above or below them. Now there are 2 main slap actions. There's striking the strings with the thumb and popping the strings with the index or middle fingers. So striking the string with the thumb is sometimes notated with an S for slap, or sometimes with a T for thumb, yeah? The T can sometimes be a little bit confusing though, because T is also used to signal notes that are tapped, like, yeah, like that. But you will see both the S and the T around, yeah? Just with an S or with a T. Now the popping is usually notated with a P, obviously for pop. So like this. So with the... Yeah? Now with the slap lines, they can get pretty involved. They use slaps, pops, hammer-ons, ghost notes, and they can sometimes do it all at once. So if you had a bass line like this, you'd play something like this. Yeah? Now, if it gets to be like a really intricate line, this can get super confusing, but that's what the S or T symbols, plus the P symbol mean on the tabs that you'll find. It's all for slap bass. Now, one of the big problems with tab is that you can't really communicate rhythm very easily, so you kind of have to know what the song sounds like before you can use the tab itself. For example, if you saw this with no kind of indication of the song, you might be able to figure it out. There's 6 open E strings, then up to the 3rd fret on the G string, then back to the open E, then back up to the 5th. So you might do something like this. You might go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. But if you don't know what the rhythm is, you might not be right at all. But if I told you this was the bass line to Another One Bites the Dust, then you'll probably be able to figure it out pretty quickly. Yeah, once you know how it sounds, you can use tab very, very easily. And by the way, these vertical lines right here, they represent a bar line. So if you've got a bar of 4, the time between these sets of vertical lines will be 4 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 4, then a new bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Now some people do try and notate rhythm through tabs, and they do it like this. They'll put the count underneath the tabs. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the pluses represent the off beats, the ands of the strong beats, yeah? Now this can work pretty well as long as the rhythm stays within this kind of 8th note grid. So if we had this example, we'd see that we had notes on beats 1, the end of beat 2, beat 3, and the ands of beat 3 and beat 4, and finally we get the end of beat 1 in the next bar. So that rhythm sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so can you see how this works? So once you figure out the rhythm, all you have to do is play the notes and you'll get something like this. Yeah, and then the second half of the line has the same rhythm, just different notes. Yeah, it's Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz. Just like that. Like I said though, this way of notating rhythm, it kind of falls apart if you need to do something that's outside of that grid. For example, if you wanted to notate a triplet, it gets a little bit trickier. Yeah, you can get around this by changing the grid. For example, if you had a bass line that uses a lot of 16th notes, then you could make a 16th note grid like this. You get 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and a 4 E and A. It takes up a lot more space, but it will get the job done. You can also do the same thing for other time signatures as well, like 6/8 and 12/8. It'll always depend on the song. But at least now you know what to do if you see numbers and pluses underneath some tabs. It's for the rhythm. There are also a bunch of different styles of tabs that you'll see depending on where you look. This is the one that a lot of kind of old school tab sites use. It's super common, but there's also other ones that look like this or this. Some of them even combine the notes of the tabs, but the rhythm of standard notation, and that'll look like this. This is great if you already know how to read music because you understand the rhythms, but if not, then it's not going to be super helpful for you, at least the rhythm side anyway. Now all of these different styles of tab though will all do basically the same thing, it just looks a little bit different. Now if you're just starting out on bass and want to jumpstart your learning, I've got the perfect thing for you. It's called the Become a Bassist Starter Pack, and it's a collection of my best lessons for beginners. We'll cover everything from mastering a fretboard, making your own bass lines, basic technique concepts. You'll even get some incredible famous bass lines to play that you can get started with right away. Now to get started with the starter pack, just click the link in the description, sign up on that page, and I'll send it straight to your inbox. And by the way, it's 100% free, my gift to you as a beginning bass player. One final thing to consider with tabs is that there are tons of really good, well put together tabs out there that would be really helpful. But there are also tons of dodgy tabs out there that are sometimes just flat out wrong. So when it comes time for you to dive in, just take the tabs you find with a grain of salt and never assume that they're 100% accurate. To recap though, you learned everything you needed to know to get started reading bass tabs. You learned that the 4 lines represented the 4 strings on your bass. You learned that a big mistake some people make is reading the tabs upside down, and the solution was to take the tabs and map them to your bass like this. You also learned a ton of the different symbols you'll see in tabs, as well as a rudimentary way of notating rhythm. You also got a bit of a warning about the accuracy of the tabs as well. Make sure to head to the site, pick up the Become a Bassist Starter Pack. Like I said, it's 100% free and 100% awesome, so hopefully I'll see you in there. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. I'm Luke McIntosh, creator of becomeabassist.com, and I'll catch you soon.